cases of elderly depression.
Yes.
Depression among elderly people, especially those living alone.
Yeah.
That again is emerging as a social problem in Japan. The question is, in the U.S. or Europe, is mindfulness taught to
the elderly,
and especially in relation to preventing depression and other mental. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you from firsthand experience that for the past 15 years, my mother has lived in a complex with elderly people. Okay, it's called independent living. So everybody has their own apartment, but they go into a dining room for dinner, or they can have dinner in their own apartment. But it's a community, but everybody's sort of independent. If they get sick, then they go to some other facility that takes care of them that's also there. But when they're well, they're just older, but they're well, they're living on their own. And I, in the early years, when my mother had just moved in, I started teaching mindfulness, offering talks and workshops on mindfulness there in that community. And then as my mother got older, and lots of people came to them and they loved it, and they would practice. Because one thing about the elderly is, they're not working anymore. They have a lot more time. And, sometimes time can weigh on you. So it's funny, like when you're working, you have no time. And then when you get old and retire, you have nothing but time. And either way, it's stressful. You have no time, it's stressful, and you have all this time, it's also stressful, unless you know how to relate to the time that you have. So the beauty of mindfulness is that it actually gives you access to the only time any of us ever have, this moment. And then, so it feeds a certain kind of satisfaction, and also it promotes health. So I can tell you from firsthand experience that as my mother got older, I stopped doing these programs in the place where she lived because I wanted to spend all the time that I could with my mother, because she was just getting older and older, and now she's over 100, and I don't want to spend time giving energy to the other people there. My time is precious, and I want to spend it with my mother when I can visit with her, which I try to do a lot. But every time I go, people are saying, when are you going to teach another mindfulness class? When are you going to come back and do this? When are you going to come back and do this? It's like all of the people who were doing it, and some people say, I'm still practicing what I learned in that one workshop that you did, or whatever it was. So, my firsthand experience is people love this, and the elderly really gives them their life back in a certain way. So that you're not watching TV all the time or something like that, which is like a total waste of time to watch TV, all the time. But you watch your mind, that's like uplifting. You get back into your body, that's actually healthy. And then it helps you to be in wiser relationship with the other people, in your lives. Now, if you're totally isolated and you're living all by yourself, then it's really good to be your own best friend. How do you befriend yourself? Drop in, visit, even unexpectedly. Give yourself a call and say, I'm coming over right now. And then you drop in on your own body, on your own breathing. And, when you practice these kinds of things, time falls away. The interesting thing about the present moment, what we call now, is that it's an experience of no time. No time at all. So then, in a sense, you know how to be in wiser relationship to the time that you have, and the day unfolds with greater appreciation. Like the morning has a certain kind of energy, and you can enjoy it. You don't have to be depressed. And even if your back hurts, even if things, it's no fun getting older. My mother, is constantly saying, growing old isn't for sissies. It requires fortitude to grow old because she's hurting a lot of the time. But she knows how to take care of herself and be in relationship to the pain, and so it doesn't completely erode the quality of her life. Is she in as good shape as when she was 85? No, not at all. But she's still breathing. She can still think. She can still remember. She can still enjoy. She's a painter, so she can enjoy just looking at her artwork. She can't really paint anymore, but she can enjoy looking at her painting and even reworking her sketches. Well, that's a kind of beautiful thing. And so I think that the elderly is one fabulous place to bring mindfulness. And a colleague of mine named Lucia McPhee, a colleague of mine named Lucia McBee wrote a book called Mindfulness-Based Elder Care. So there's a whole field now, and she's published several scientific papers about the outcomes of this, that mindfulness-based elder care, or MBEC now, another one of the mindfulness cousins, is becoming a field in elder care, okay? So I think that this is a very, very potentially fruitful way to deal with the kind of challenges of old age. I'm thinking about all these people in Japan who are quite old. I think Japan has the largest average longevity of any country in the world. Is that true? That Japanese tend to live the longest of all the countries in the world. But if they're isolated, if people are isolated in their old age, it might not be so great. But what if, like, you could turn on the television and have a mindfulness program on television where, like, everybody was alone, but they were all meditating together, and you did that on television? That would be a very powerful thing to do. You know, you could have millions of people meditating at 10 o'clock in the morning in Japan together, and then phoning in about their experience or whatever. I mean, you could have doctors coming in and giving lectures on TV about the value of cultivating mindfulness and how important exercise is and how important diet is, and you could kind of educate people and also keep them in this kind of sense of interconnectedness, even though they're all in their own apartments. It might be tremendously powerful. But those are the kinds of what I would call imaginative programs that might be developed when the society begins to think mindfully, you know, to consider the potential for raising the quality of life of the whole country. That's what the Parliament in the UK is interested in, raising the quality of life in the whole country and the gross domestic happiness index.
Thank you.
It might actually, this kind of approach might actually reduce the need for medication in old age, because people would actually be taking better care of themselves and regulating their depression or their sadness or their anxiety through meditative practices and the sense of community through the television program of the kind I described, rather than just taking pills to dull the pain.